Okay, I think we have the members of the committee, 3, 4, 5. I think we have all the appropriate staff. And we are live, correct? We're live, great. And I got the thumbs up over here. We're good to go? Okay. All right, so then we will go. So at 1:04, I will call to order the first day of budget hearings for the FY25 budget. And if we could get a roll call, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councillor Casson?
Here.
Councillor Lindell? Councillor Lee Garcia?
Here.
Councillor Faulkner?
Here.
Chair Romero Worth?
I am here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, and do we have changes to our agenda today, or is this what we're going to do?
Madam Chair, no changes from staff.
All right, do we have a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion passes. Oh, I have opening remarks. Look at that. Well, welcome everyone. Congratulations to the budget staff on another budget under your belts, another notch on your belts. Look forward to these hearings to dive in, and this is always a great window for us as the Finance Committee and the governing body to get a window into the workings of city government, both past and future. And you know, I'm excited to dive in. And again, I want to thank everybody who was a part of this. And I think Director Oster, I don't know, I do want to make sure we recognize the budget staff, and if I don't know who would like to introduce the people who would or who have been involved in that, and if you want to do that, that'd be great. Maybe this is a good time. Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee. I would like to indeed introduce and thank the members of the budget team, starting with Anita Medina, who helped me very much and helped quite a bit in producing the POL as well as reviewing budgets. We have our new staff member, Chris Parker, there in the back. Also dove in with some budget reviews and helped quite a lot with the fleet assessments as well. Alexis Lotero helped us once again with reviewing some of the budgets. We also, he's not here today, but we have our temp person who's been helping us, Josh Chandler, who also took on some budgets and some other important roles with the budget. While we're here also, I'd like to thank Bern Salazar and her team in HR for helping us with the extremely difficult and complex task of getting the class and comp study recommendations budgeted, allocated correctly. That was a very, very heavy lift. It literally took me and Anita sitting in her computer for 2 weeks straight to get all of that in. So that was quite a heavy lift indeed. In addition, I'd like to thank Armenia Tapia for her help with in many stages of the process, including putting these lovely presentations together. Also, Christy Miera in the purchasing office, who also helped make these beautiful presentations happen. Let's see, Christina Martinez, who is currently in Treasury, but getting ready to join the budget team very soon. She helped us with budget book flow and presentation and grammar and punctuation and all that good stuff. So really appreciate that. Also, thanks to Aaron Pulsifer and in the Community Engagement Department and Leonard Padilla in IT for posting the books online. Finally, our second to last, I want to give a special shout out to the mayor for finding a critical error in the budget letter at the very last minute, right before we went to print. And also to Angie Brown for running upstairs with her hair on fire and letting us know just on time, just in time about that. So thank you both. Finally, just a thanks to all the department directors, division directors and department staff for their patience, answering questions, providing information promptly. We couldn't have gotten this done without them. And of course, I include Emily in that list of department directors. And she also helped in many stages of the budget process. So if I forgot anybody, I apologize, but I think I got just about everybody in there. So anyway.
All right, so let's pause there. I'm going to go to Director Oster because I think actually, Director Oster, you probably should provide some opening remarks as well. So give you
Thank
that
you, Chair
opportunity.
Merriworth. I just wanted to thank Andy. He left himself off the list, and Andy is a huge part of our budget process. And with that, I'll be glad to turn it back over to Andy for his opening remarks. But you did forget yourself, so I wanted to make sure that we acknowledged you.
Gentleman thanks not himself.
All right, and we also have the mayor here with us today, and just wanted to acknowledge his presence. And Mayor, I don't know if there was anything you wanted to say as we get underway here.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is really an important process we go through, and I think the committee, I know from past experience, takes its role and responsibility enormously with great seriousness of purpose. It's a chance not only to look at the budget, but to look at the city's operations as a whole. And it's a way to ask constructive questions of our department heads and their people to learn more about ongoing projects, their priorities, things they really depend on the governing body in order to get done. They can't do it without the support of the Finance Committee and the governing body more broadly. So it's always a very important process we go through, and a constructive one of building the elements of the city's operation for the public to see, and for the public to appreciate all that goes on a day-to-day basis that is often obscured from view. And it's also an exercise in not only aspirations, but acknowledging constraints. We always run out of money before we run out of things we'd like to do. So we have to make choices and set priorities and evaluate things that are working, things that need more investment, things that frankly need to be reevaluated. And your roles is you play the essential role in making that happen. So thank you.
Thank you. And just really quick, I also want to thank the members of the Finance Committee for the time you're about to spend in these hearings. Really appreciate it. Want to welcome Councilor Castro, who is sitting in with us today and maybe other days. So thank you. The way I have run this in the past is I definitely defer to the members of the Finance Committee first, and then afterwards, any counselors who sit in and want to ask questions, please feel free to jump in. So just want everyone to know how that works. And I think, unless there's something else, we are ready to begin with the fiscal year 2025 budget overview, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Hopkins, and we'll get into the meat of it.
Madam Chair. Just go ahead and go to the next slide, if you would. We had a significant challenge. Every budget is a challenge, but this one was especially challenged. We had some very, very big items to fund in this budget. Primarily, of course, was the 8% to fund, or $8 million to fund the recommendations of the comp and class study. which includes an entirely new grade system for city employees. It will help recruitment a lot, which is something that we've been suffering from for quite a long time. It will bring our classification and compensation system up to date, which is something that was sorely needed. I know there was some pain inflicted in some parts of the budget to fund this. There were some cuts made in some strategic locations that I can get into later. There were a lot of things that we would have liked to do this year that we simply, the mayor would have liked to do this year as well, but we just did not have the room to do because, the comp and class was just too big of a hurdle to get past. And of course, that was our primary goal, was to get that funded fully. So that $8 million put quite a bit of strain on the budget. We also added a 3% cost of living adjustment, which cost approximately $4.1 million across the city's budgets. That was a significant addition. We also had a $2 million increase to our risk premiums. Those insurance costs are not optional. We have to pay them. So there were quite a bit of pressures on the expenditure side of the budget. And while we're looking at that, we also had to deal with the fact that all indications are showing GRT revenues leveling off. They make up approximately 70% of the revenue budget. So pretty much that is one of the biggest drivers of the revenue budget and the constraints that we are facing in this budget. That said, we had many budget priorities that were passed on to us both by councilors and by the mayor that we were able to fund or to continue to fund. First category of that would be housing and homelessness. In the affordable housing budget, we have $4.6 million budgeted for home buyer and low-income housing assistance. We also have in the community services budget $150,000 for the city's homeless case management and shelter, sheltering of homeless residents. We were able to continue some of our initiatives to protect the environment, including $500,000 for the clean energy program and $2.8 million for the water conservation program, among other things. We were continuing our investment in jobs in the economy, including administration of $975,000 for LEDA, or Local Economic Development Act projects, $359,000 in support for local entrepreneurs, and $175,000 for business incubation and small business resources. We also made some investments in improving customer service for our citizens, including $170,000 for extensive ongoing review of the land development code, $1.7 million for a new customer portal for utility accounts, and $125,000 in the community engagement department for nuisance property abatement and shopping cart removal. As far as improving infrastructure and quality of life, we have included $1.1 million for streets improvements, including street lights, traffic signals, pavement marking, and traffic calming projects, and $835,000 for beautification of parks, open spaces, and arroyos. And just want to make a little side note on that. There has been some question about what we can fund in the operating budget for streets. We generally in the operating budget, we can do things like filling potholes, pavement markings, things of that nature. Full-on road resurfacing is something that has to be done in the capital budget. So we will be bringing that along to you in the next several weeks as we turn to the capital budget and some one-time things. That will certainly include a streets component there. So that's where a lot of that will be, and keep an eye out for that. Then finally, we're sustaining the city's vital tourism economy. In the tourism budget, we have $4.2 million for the promotion of Santa Fe tourism. And in addition, we have $385,000 for city-sponsored and run community events through tourism. And with that overview, I will stand for any questions at this point.
Questions from the committee? We don't normally do a whole bunch of questions at this point, but Counselor Lindell.
Do we want overview type of questions or?
Yeah, I guess let's wait on the, like, diving in on some of this stuff to when we get the agency folks in front of us, because we don't have, members of every department here today, only the departments that are in front of us. So, yeah.
Mine isn't really an agency.
Okay.
It's an overview question. Can I proceed?
Yeah. Perfect.
And if you would like for me, once I start, if you'd like me to wait, I'm more than happy to do that, Chair. So in just looking, first of all, thank you. What an incredible amount of work every year, Andy. Thank you so much. And I know the lift this year was especially hefty. I have an overview question that I'm just looking for some clarity on, whether it's to you, whether it's to Ms. Oster, either way. When I go through the budget book and I look at it, I see flat or decreased budgets in a lot of different areas. And I'm looking to get some clarity and some insight as to why that is. Do we have decreased revenues? Are we changing around how we do some things? And how do these flat or decreased budgets affect our services, which is the overall question. And the reason I asked this, Chair, was because it's not specific to any one department, but it's clear if you study the budget book that we have some flat budgets or some decreases. And the truth is that what I see us doing is increasing services and being able to also increase how we pay employees of the city. So if one of you would like to give me some insight to that, and also perhaps give the public some insight to it, I think that that would be a good way for us to start out.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, two major points on that. As usual, in the budget book, we present the current mid-year budget and next year's budget, and that is the point of comparison. What you have to keep in mind, you may recall that in the first 2 quarters of the current fiscal year, we added to the budget a significant amount of one-time costs on the order of $13 million. Things like a new metropolitan redevelopment agency director, things like a new ambulance and staffing for that, and just a myriad of other things, support for land use, support for new software, new CRM system and community engagement, just all sorts of things across the board. So those one-time items are included in the mid-year budget because they are part of the mid-year budget, but they were one-time in nature. So while it may look in some areas, particularly that got a lot of one-time increases, like it may look like the budget is going down, that is really a bit misleading because that's basically taking out one-time stuff and going back to the regular normal level of service. So we do not anticipate any cuts to service, or we are not planning on any cuts to service for this budget. We did make cuts in some areas in the contractual services budget. Alexis Lotero and myself looked at the division by division contractuals budget and where we are spending our budget in contractuals and where we are not. You may recall in many past quarterly financial reports that we show significant under expenditures, particularly in the level of contractuals. So we broke it down the budget division by division and said, okay, where are we spending our contractuals budget and where are we not? There are a few areas like the fire department that tend to spend 100% of their contractuals budget. We left them alone. But there are some areas, I'm not going to speak out anybody by name because I don't want to sound like I'm being critical of anybody. But there are some areas where we tend to budget or we tend to spend about half of our contractuals budget over the course of the year. And that doesn't even count the amount of money in the contractuals budget that has been moved to other places during the course of the year. That is not factored into the equation. So even this reduced contractuals budget, some of which was peeled off to pay for salary increases or paying for a new vehicle or paying for supply increases, whatever it may be, whatever that remaining contractuals budget at the year end, we look at the actual spend versus that, and it can be anywhere from 85% of it spent to closer to 50% or even less spent. So when we were trying to get this comp and class study funded, realizing that we had a very limited set of resources to work with, that was one of the first places we looked. And division by division, okay, what was your 3-year average spend? And over that 3-year average, what was the highest you spent percentage-wise over that last 3 years? We would cut just to a level remaining budget just above that high level of usage. So we didn't even base it on the 3-year average. If you had an average spend, say in a division of 75% of your contractuals budget, but you actually in 1 year you spent 86% of your contractuals budget, we would cut closer to 90% or 10% from your budget just to accommodate that extraordinary high year. So that is one thing that a lot of people have told us that they are, experiencing some difficulty with absorbing in their budgets. But as we told them, we had to fund comp and class somehow. So keep in mind, this money is not really a cut. This money is being reprogrammed to give you a 21st century compensation and classification system and be able to recruit talented employees, which everyone in virtually every department will tell you they've had a lot of trouble doing. Second, the numbers don't lie. People can, stretch the truth one way or another, but the numbers are the numbers. And the fact is that if, over 3 years, Department X has not spent more than a certain percentage of their contractuals budget, they really can't come to me with a straight face and say, oh, we're going to spend 100% this year. My response to that is, yeah, I know that's the intent, but you say that, well, I'll believe it when I see it. So, but yeah, back to the original question. Keep in mind, you're dealing with, when you're looking at the increase versus the base of the mid-year budget, keep in mind that mid-year budget is artificially inflated. So you're comparing to an inflated base. And that doesn't even take into account the normal carry forward that we have in many of these areas. Even in a normal year without a lot of one-time spending from additional DRT, we have a significant amount of carry forward, even in the general fund, for things like police vehicles and other capital outlay that police vehicles in particular and fire vehicles as well, but mostly police vehicles this year that can take 2 or 3 years to go through the entire appropriations process, just because, even in a good year and a normal year without supply chain disruptions, which we are still seeing as a bit of a hangover from COVID, it can take that long to get a police vehicle fully equipped, all the bells and whistles, added to it, procured from suppliers, and get added to the vehicles. So there's a significant amount of carry forward even in the general fund budget to be able to purchase those vehicles because they simply cannot be done. Hope that answered your question.
Thank you very much. I think that that really helps us to know what this budget really looks like. And I think that that's the insight that we needed to go through this and look at what we really are trying to fund.
Counselor Lindell, if I could just defer to Director Oster, or looks like also the mayor would like to weigh in on your question, if that would be all right.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Andy, for that wonderful overview of the mechanics of how the budget team made this all work. I just wanted to zoom out a little bit and talk a little bit about expectations. Our needs and wants will always exceed the resources that are available. So a part of every budget process is making difficult decisions. And I think that the story of this budget for me, the message that I see coming through in this budget is that the city is investing in its employees. Like Andy mentioned, the implementation of a 21st century compensation structure is something that will benefit current city employees and employees going forward. And I believe that that investment in our greatest resource, which is our workforce, our people, will allow the city to provide a higher level of service as we fill positions and as we increase compensation to align with the market. And I also wanted to make one other point. We do have the ability to make adjustments throughout the fiscal year, which is great. So after the budget is adopted, once the fiscal year starts, if we find that, for example, I'll use the excise tax for affordable housing. That's a new program coming online in about a month, and we have projections of how much revenue that's going to generate, but we don't really know yet. We don't have actuals. So as we get a few months of data and we start to get actuals, we may want to do a mid-year budget adjustment to bring that revenue into the FY25 budget. And with that, I believe the mayor.
Yeah, thank you for really asking a terrific table setting question, because I think the art of reading a budget is a learned skill. It's not automatic. And sometimes you look at the pluses or minuses and think they indicate a decrease of absolute service levels, or you're not entirely sure what's behind the story behind the number. I think the couple points that are worth thinking about at the higher level. First of all, we budget from year to year, but we don't absolutely keep things the same from year to year. And in fact, we shouldn't. The process of budgeting since I became mayor has been an ongoing series of questions that we ask of ourselves every year. What are we doing that's working and deserves more money? What are we doing that's not working and ought to be reexamined and perhaps spending cut or changed, the program change? What are we not doing that we should add to the agenda of our activities? Because we're seeing from the course of the year a big missed opportunity to improve services to people. So those questions really get to the heart of examining the performance of city government on an ongoing basis and trying to take the budget and it's not so much downsizing or cutting so much as reshaping and shifting resources to where they can do the most good. If you look at the budget as a physical entity, the goal is to put the resources that we have available so that we get the most benefit out of those resources. Sometimes that means, and we do this all year long, and the council's involved with it all year long, that means sometimes a bar comes to the governing body to approve, to move some money from one place to another. Sometimes it's a reclassification of a position or several positions in order to fill a need that is felt very strongly that hadn't yet had a position created for it. So we are, I don't think it's, it is easy to see, look at the budget as pluses and minuses and cuts and additions. I think it's more about reshaping and moving our resources to the places where we feel the greatest need. And that is reflected in this budget in particular in the way we are supporting, paying our people and keeping the people we have who are doing an outstanding job, adding to their ranks, attracting more talent, and being in the midst of a really competitive market for people. But it also revolves around redeploying assets to programs and getting the most out of the money we've got. And the last thing I would say is to reinforce what Director Oster said, which is this is an annual budget, but it's not a one and done budget. That we already know there will be a special meeting that will be held to look at spending some of the dollars that are currently in our reserve account for one-time expenditures. That's a separate, almost supplemental budget that needs to be taken up separately. And it too will be asking, are we putting our dollars where they get the most results for the people of Santa Fe? So Councilor Lindell, you really asked the right question to frame how to read a budget, how to think your way into a budget, and then how to constructively engage in the way in which the budget indicates what choices we've been making with the public's dollars.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, if I could add one more point.
Sure.
I apologize. And it did, when you, as I mentioned, we did add a lot of one-time costs, as Anita reminded me. That one-time cost over the last year includes 36 new positions that were added, so that was a significant thing. But I just want to bring your attention to page 6 of the budget, the last page of the mayor's transmittal letter. Alexis Lotero, to her credit, added this to the budget, and I think it was a very good addition to give a little bit of extra perspective. She decided to say, well, how does the FY25 original budget that we are proposing now compare with the FY24 budget that we submitted last year at the original? So when we take out the carry forward, when we take out the one-time stuff, how does the 1 year's to next year's original budget compare? And you can see it's in that second paragraph on page 6. The general fund expenditures, when looked at that way, actually increased by $7.8 million or 6% over the original budget for 24. When you look at all funds, the budget of $440.1 million actually also reflects an increase, in this case, of $36.7 million or 9% compared to the original FY24 budget. So just to give you a little bit better apples to apples comparison, that's your basic services budget, keeping the lights on, keeping people going out and serving the community, not for one-time things like, you know, adding a little bit here, adding a little bit there, doing this special project, doing this pilot project. We're talking about the normal baseline level of customer service. The budget actually increased by quite a significant amount.
Councilor Lindell.
That's really all I had, Chair. I just think that gives some real clarity to the budget that we're looking at. Because if you just go one by one through each of the departments, you'll see, you know, a decrease of this. And I just wanted to have everybody clear and clarified of what we're doing, and that these decreases do not reflect any pullback in service whatsoever. So thank you for letting me do that prior to presentations.
Yeah, and I appreciate the question and the answers, and also the level of experience you bring to this process. We're lucky to have you, and the number of years you've served on this committee and the number of budgets that you've laid your eyes on and worked through. So I commend the question and also your experience.
Well, thank you, Chair. This is my 10th year on this committee, and I will tell you that reading through this budget, there's a clarity that's uncommon in my experience. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from committee members? Councilor Castro? I do want to focus in on a couple of things. The class and comp $8 million investment, I think you mentioned it, that means it's fully funded in the FY25 budget. Is that is there a phasing here? Is there going to be more down the road? Or when you
Madam
say
Chair,
fully funded, what are you telling us?
it is partially phased. One of the reasons it took us 2 weeks straight to calculate the impact of this on the budgets is that every union and every classification of employee in terms of union type or non-union actually ended up being different. The fire union negotiated full implementation of class and comp in FY24. So that has a significantly higher impact than for everybody else because there was no phasing in the fire union. In the case of police union, the only agreement that was reached was to bring to minimum of the new classification system. The rest of the calculated cost for the phasing that is happening is programmed into the police department budget as a collective bargaining reserve set aside based on what they put it in. I'll give you an overview of the overall plan for it and what was brought to the unions. In conjunction with the HR department, we worked out how the phasing is meant to be budgeted. And it's essentially based on the original idea and what was originally presented to all the unions was as of April of the current year, so this month of the current year, everyone would get brought to minimum of the new classification system. And also the first 25% phase of what is known as the hybrid parity increases, which are the increases to bring our experienced and incumbent city employees up to their new classification levels. So that would be what we would call phase one. Now, in the case of the police union, phase one was not included for FY24 because they did not agree to that. The same with AFSCME. AFSCME did not agree to either the bring to minimum or phase one. So we are currently have set asides in both the police department and the HR department budget for the equivalent amounts to bring both bring to minimum and phase one into effect as of July 1st. Dependent, of course, on the those unions agreeing to those contracts. For non-union employees, because no negotiation was or contract agreement was necessary, that bring to minimum and phase one actually comes into effect in April. For fire union, as previously noted, there is no phasing. The entire classification and compensation system goes into effect on day one. I cannot speak as to why that was done. I was not part of the negotiating team. I would advocate, and I have advocated in the past, that budget should be part of that negotiating team, but that's a decision made above my pay grade.
And perhaps Director Oster can help us here, just so we get the full picture and initial kind of foundation for a big piece of this budget.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, Andy. On fire, my understanding is that fire is different because their pay plan and their pay scales, their paramilitary structure required full implementation. So they don't have hybrid parity in fire because of the paramilitary structure. So it had to be fully implemented or not at all with fire. And so that is my understanding of why that was different.
And just to put some numbers to all of this, the collective bargaining reserve for the police union, based on the phasing that I talked about earlier, is approximately $490,000. For the fire union, The impact on the FY 25 budget is about $2.1 million. For AFSMI, it's about almost $2.2 million. And then for non-union personnel, it's about 2.2 million as well. And in addition, on top of that, we did include $4.1 million to offer a 3% pay increase equivalent for all city employees across the board. So that, just to put some numbers to those figures. Also, I will note one other thing. As I said, this is a phased approach. The budget assumes, based on what we've talked about with HR, the phase two, in other words, the second 25% of the hybrid parity raises will go into effect in January of 2026, halfway through the year. And then keep in mind, watch for in next year's budget and the FY 26 budget, the last two phases of hybrid parity will be happening then. So this $8 million is really for basically about 37.5% of hybrid parity. There will be a significant impact on the FY 26 budget as well, because basically half of the increases for hybrid parity will be going into effect then. So you can count on that probably being in excess of $12 million. That will be affecting. So as hard as this budget was, I'm not looking forward to and working that in, particularly with GRT leveling off. If it's continuing to do that, we are going to have a really tough row to hoe. 26.
So that's a good segue, because my second question that I wanted to talk to you about is the GRT leveling off. And maybe if you could just speak to, as we know, during COVID, we really fell off a cliff. It's taken us a while to come back, to recover. We have, our GRT is above its pre-COVID levels, as I understand it. But it is leveling off. And I think it gets to this point that was made by the mayor about how every budget is kind of a reshaping. And we don't have an ever expanding revenue source. So that's also why the reshaping and the flexibility to reshape is so important, that we maintain that flexibility to reshape, because we can't always be adding new dollars. And maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
Yes.
It really represents our constraints, right? So.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. That is correct. GRT in the post-COVID, in the immediate post-COVID years, a couple of years immediately after, actually rebounded quite a bit faster than we had anticipated, leading to a lot of these one-time things that you have seen coming forward from an excess or additional GRT revenue above and beyond what was described. I basically ascribed that to cabin fever. People were sick of being stuck at home in their sweats. They wanted to go out and they wanted to go, they wanted to eat, drink, and be merry and shop. And that really, and travel to Santa Fe. So that really caused a real boom in the immediate post-COVID era. It seems from what we've been seeing from the GRT checks from the state so far that year, that trend seems to be cooling off. GRT is not really down, but it's not really up the way we've seen it too. It seems like we're about even with about where we projected it to be. And we projected the FY 25 GRT numbers accordingly with that trend. So we are, it's not doom and gloom, but, happy days are not necessarily going to continue the way they have in the last.
Right. And of course, we know that GRT is a highly volatile revenue source. It goes up, it goes down, it stays flat. I mean, it's always changing. And that's part of the challenge that we face when 70% of our operating budget is dependent on that one revenue source.
Indeed. That, in fact, is why you will see the vast majority, if you look nationwide, the vast majority of cities, counties, school districts do not rely on GRT. They rely on property tax. The curve over time for property tax looks like this. The curve over time for GRT looks like this. And you can see what a challenge that would be. This is kind of one of my, forgive me for getting a little bit preachy here, but one of the things that I always bring up too, when you're looking at GRT versus property tax, and this is, you know, speaking more of one with a liberal bent than anything else, I suppose, but property tax is among the most progressive taxes that there are. The richer you are, the more disposable income you have, the more money you have in assets like real estate, the more of a share of property tax you pay. GRT is the exact opposite. The poorer you are, the more you're living hand to mouth, living paycheck to paycheck, the greater bite out of your paycheck GRT takes every time. And so it is what we call in economics a regressive tax. I know the political reality, Alexis loves to tell me there's reality and then there's political reality. People tend to focus more on property tax because it's paid all at once. They see it all at once and they're like, oh God, you can't raise my property tax. We're land rich and cash poor. And I totally understand that. I'm not saying I don't agree
Yep.
with that.
Yep.
But it's, you know, I always try to tell people, I know you don't see the GRT as much because it's a little bit at a time, but it's actually taking a bigger bite out of your paycheck than property tax ever would.
All right, we're digressing a little bit into
Yes.
bigger tax
Forgive me.
policy. So I'll pull you back here. There's also an interesting article, I think it was in the New York Times, about the impact of property tax on building wealth. So anyway, but now I digress. So we'll go back.
Get off my high horse.
Yeah, no worries. Director Oster, I'm going to go to you, I guess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If it pleases the committee, I'd like to circle back quickly on comp and class, just to talk a little bit about history and methodology. Back in March, the governing body, the city, adopted a new pay plan for city employees. And this was the first time that the city had implemented a new pay plan and a methodology on how employees progress through the new pay range. In the past, the city has implemented a bring to minimum, but those changes were not implemented in a way that allowed employees to be compensated in addition to just being brought to the new minimum. But this new pay plan has the hybrid parity component to it, which is the methodology that allows employees to progress through the range. And that is based on city seniority and seniority within their job classification. So I wanted to circle back just a little bit on the philosophy and why this compensation and classification study and the implementation of the recommendations from that study is so important and so significant for the city.
You ask any department director out there, Madam Chair, members of the committee, what their number one priority has been over the last few years, it's been, we need to have a better compensation system so we can recruit real talent.
Right, and I think that's because we have vacancies across city government that we have struggled to fill in the post-COVID world. So, and our study definitely showed we are below market rate when you look at the salary levels that we offer. So we have great benefits, but salary level is needs an adjustment. All right, other questions from the committee? Councilor Cassett.
I'd say not only recruit, but also retention has been a really big one. I know that when we hear from staff, we have great talent, some of them in the room, but that's been a key piece of this conversation too. Just wanted to recognize that.
Thank you for that. All right, I think we can move on from the budget overview. Anybody wave at me? And we'll go now to our union presentations. And I don't know if on my agenda, I don't have a particular order. I don't know if you all among yourselves decided an order, but however you all want to proceed is fine by me. All right, terrific. If you all would just introduce yourselves to the committee and to the public, that would be helpful. And the floor is yours.
Going to restart. Hello, counselors, staff, and all those in attendance today. My name is Louis DeMella. I'm the Vice President of ASME Local 3999. I'm here today with some of our membership to present our expectations for the coming fiscal year budget and to explain our experience and excitement thus far with the classification and compensation study that is being implemented for the current and several future fiscal years. ASME members have been tasked with doing more work with fewer unionized staff over the past several years. Our members see an already top-heavy administration create more positions with equal benefits, yet minimal improvement in city services. It is with that in mind that we find the greatest value in our most experienced AFSCME workers. Implementing the class and comp study will require an amendment change to our collective bargaining agreement with the city of Santa Fe. This will be the sixth such amendment to our CBA with the administration since we began negotiations in 2019. A standing topic among our membership has been to see their years of seniority with the city of Santa Fe reflected in their pay. This class and compensation study is a way to do that. The union and administration all have the same goal with the implementation of the class and compensation study to ensure that our workers, all of whom provide essential services to the public, are compensated fairly and accurately. This class and comp study is an investment in our workforce. This is the city's chance to show that when we properly pay our union workers for working 16-plus-hour days fixing the water lines in our city, or handling the trash and park maintenance across the city, or providing essential services for our seniors, our recreation divisions, and our environmental services, every member of the public benefits, everyone, from citizen to tourist, from rich to poor, can see and experience direct improvements in and across Santa Fe. This study is our chance to prove to our skilled, senior, hungry workers they matter. Their work matters. If our workers decide to seek employment at other agencies like the county and state, both agencies willing and eager to poach our city workers, they can see that with this compensation study, the city of Santa Fe does something very few employers do: reward loyal unionized city employees. That is a retention bonus that will resonate greatly with our membership both in Santa Fe and across the U.S. To that end, our union board has made a point to take a deep dive into the compensation and classification study. While we trust the competency and thoroughness of the company Evergreen Solutions, our methods regarding anything which impacts the wages, hours, and working conditions of our membership is to trust but verify what we are presented. And to that end, I'm going to pass it along.
Madam Chair, counselors, city staff, everybody in attendance. I'm Quentin Peterson, Negotiations Committee Member with ASME Local 3999. Our experienced senior ASME membership train, mentor, and prep our newer staff in ways that isn't easily calculated financially, but provides incredible value across our city. Our ASME staff are critical support for new directors navigating the city bureaucracy. We interact with the public and our fellow workers more than nearly every frontline manager. There are no paid trainings that can match the hands-on skill, training, and relationships our membership provides other employees, all on behalf of and in service to the city of Santa Fe. Our board has reviewed the classification and compensation study. Here's some highlights we wish to bring to your attention as you go into the coming year's budget allocations. Key positions in our water division and elsewhere are in the lowest pay scale. These are positions that are out on our streets when our pipes burst, break, or leak. Their work in the high desert environment of Santa Fe is worth far more to both our membership and the citizens of Santa Fe than the lowest pay grade. The hybrid parity has several discrepancies that show some of our most senior membership being offered well below the pay rates they should receive based on the criteria outlined by the company Evergreen Solutions as presented to the governing body, general public, and our membership. We found senior employees whose initial offer for the hybrid parity for the current fiscal year to be just under $600, with the total amount for the hybrid parity to be less than $2,500 over the full implementation over the hybrid parity plan. Using our membership whose years of city service are the same as their job classification seniority, they are members who have only had one job with the city for over 20 years, we found the initial offer would have been shorting individual members of our union of hybrid parity pay. in several cases by over $10,000. Again, based on the metrics that have been publicly advertised to both the governing body and the public at large, we have found numerous people among our membership with similar cases. These are additional costs the city would not have known to account for. We're currently waiting for updated figures for our entire membership to ensure additional mistakes like this are found. Then, once a total figure is addressed, we are counting on you here among the Finance Committee and everyone else watching with the ability to help find and allocate the additional funds needed to ensure that our membership get the correct hybrid parity pay. With all that said, our membership hopes for support from the Finance Committee and governing body to allocate the funds needed for this and for the class and comp study to be fully implemented. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, councilors, and all in attendance today. My name is Carly Vendetti. I'm a senior planner with the Land Use Department and a proud board member with ASME Local 3999. Many of you may have seen me around City Hall over the past year or even paid me a visit in land use. Gets a little bit tricky back there. However, I come from a family of public servants, Teamsters, and blue-collar workers back east. Before moving to Santa Fe, I worked in the realm of private consulting in Boston. For many long nights and many long weekends too. When I joined the city different a year ago as a planner, I chose Santa Fe for a change of pace and benefits working for local government. My partner and I can see a future here. Buying a home, attending our future children's science fair at Carlos Gilbert Elementary, and we want to be a family of public servants. As young professionals, we are grateful for the benefits you have all helped us maintain as we look ahead in our lives. I was inspired to join AFSCME to better understand how my skill set could help serve colleagues, many of whom would be greatly impacted by the class and comp study, as well as the annual cost of living adjustment. Several of my colleagues are managing their finances carefully, opting to join the city workforce to access vital health care and recreation center benefits, and ultimately ensure their well-being of their families. Meanwhile, others view this employment as a chance to receive support for advancing their education. However, a significant number find themselves compelled to seek secondary employment to make do with less. We have a chance over the fiscal year to help change that. We know the lives we have chosen as city employees, public servants. We ask you to seize the opportunity to recognize AFSCME members' dedication and continue to support our benefits and compensation and budget deliberations. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Soy Therese Martínez. Trabajo para la División de las Bibliotecas de la Ciudad de Santa Fe como administrador de proyectos. En conclusión, la definición de locura es hacer repetidamente las mismas cosas y esperar resultados diferentes. Durante los últimos años, la Unión de Empleados Local 3999 ha estado pidiendo las mismas cosas y consiguiendo los mismos resultados. Este año le pedimos una cosa a la ciudad de Santa Fe, que confíe en nosotros, confíe en que nuestro juicio sobre de qué es bueno para nuestros miembros. Somos las botas en el terreno. Créanos cuando decimos que los matemáticos no funcionan. Los resultados no se pueden replicar para el estudio de compensación y clasificación. Culpa con nuestra solicitud de trabajar con Evergreen Solutions LLC para solucionar las brechas e inconsistencias del estudio. Ayúdanos a ayudarnos unos a otros. Seamos un equipo conjensonado, una asociación que funcione. Confía con nosotros. Trabajemos juntos para que este estudio de compensación y clasificación a sus resultados finales funcionen para todos, para el bien de todos. Ultice que este presupuesto para ayudar a todos los empleados a avanzar y cosechar los frutos de su trabajo duro, motivado, extremadamente dedicado y absolutamente leal. Como representantes de la ciudad de Santa Fe, muestramos con las partidas, los totales, la atención de detalle que estamos pidiendo, que usted apoya a esta unión de más de 50% de la fuerza laboral a los más de 700 empleados clasificados de la Unión, que los apoya y que está a sus lados 100%. Muchas gracias. Good afternoon. I am Therese Martinez. I work for the City of Santa Fe Library Division as a project administrator. In conclusion, the definition of madness, insanity, is repeatedly doing the same things and expecting different results. For the last several years, the employee union Local 3999 has been asking for the same things and achieving the same results. This year, we are asking the City of Santa Fe for one thing: to trust us, trust our judgment of what is good for our membership. We are the boots on the ground. Trust us when we say the math doesn't work. The results can't be replicated for the compensation and classification study. Fulfill our request that with Evergreen LLC to iron out the gaps and inconsistencies in their study. Help us to help each other. Help us to be a cohesive team, a functioning partnership. Trust us. Let's work together to make this compensation and classification study and its end results work for everyone and for the better good. Use this budget to assist all employees to advance and reap the fruits of their hardworking, driven, extremely dedicated, and absolutely loyal labor as representatives of the City of Santa Fe. Show us with the line items, the totals, the attention to the detail we're asking for, that you support this union of over 50% of the labor force, the over 700 union classified employees, that you support them and stand beside them 100%. Thank you. AFSCME Union Local 3999.
Thank you for those presentations, statements. We're not going in any particular order, so whoever wants to be up next, we're ready.
Afternoon. Go on, right? Good afternoon, finance team, council members, governing body. As president of the Santa Fe Union, I'd like to express my gratitude, first of all, to the city of Santa Fe and council members, budget team, in doing what they've done and bringing in in their efforts in bringing the city employees pay up to date, at least comparable.
Can I get you to speak more into the mic and also state your name? I'm sorry, just
Sorry
so,
about that.
yeah, you're good. It's just, we can hear you okay in the chamber, but anybody watching on Zoom and that
Got it.
mic doesn't do, if you're tall, doesn't do you any
Yeah,
favor.
I'm kind of tall.
So there.
There you go.
There you go. That's much better. Thanks so much.
Again, James Plummer, president of the union, Santa Fe Police Officers Union. I'd like to express my gratitude to the city council members and the mayor for their efforts in bringing the city employees up to date, comparable with the city of Santa Fe, or comparable with other cities like Santa Fe within our area. As stated by other unions, we are, at a drought. People are not coming to us as quickly as we want. And of course, this should be able to change that tremendously. And of course, it's like a slow leak. It's hopefully grows bigger and we get more from it. Our union is currently in contract negotiations, which limits my discussion about money pay and things in that nature. But the fact that our police department is still understaffed, 25 current vacancies, is a matter of great concern. This is a pressing issue for us as a union and for the city's citizens, as it directly affects our safety and operational efficiency. While there have been recent pay increases for some department officers, we must continue to address this issue. must remain competitive with other agencies to attract and retain high-quality officers. This commitment is essential for the success and safety of the agency and our city. As a union, we strongly request that we be included continuing forward in budget proposals and discussions going forward. So not only address the current issue where the union is approached with set amount of money post-budget and then given something just to work for. It's not at that point, not a true negotiation for compensation and benefits. Since early inclusion is crucial for us to effectively represent our members' interests and contribute to the city's overall welfare. Reiterate, it's great job, great start. I've had multiple conversations with those sitting on the board, specifically Mayor, Mr. Garcia, Councilor Cassett, Ms. Faulkner, Alma Castro. We sat down and discussed many issues within the city of Santa Fe, and a lot of it comes down to fire, police, and of course, AFSCME, getting the, work done on boots on the ground type information. So all we'd ask is, let's listen to each other as we go forward.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I appreciate you allowing me to speak today. My name is Aiden Lopez. I'm the president of the Santa Fe Firefighters Association, Local 2059. In the past year, the Santa Fe Firefighters Association has been moving full speed. We have made an overwhelmingly presence at the Roundhouse, raised money for good causes, and helped our members with out-of-pocket expenses regarding important life events. All this while still responding to over 24,000 emergency calls, on average lasting around 30 minutes. This equates to approximately 12,000 hours of direct face-to-face interactions with individuals from all walks of life in our diverse city. While these interactions are routine for us, they hold a profound significance for the person in need, as each call could potentially be their last. When individuals reach out to the fire department, it's usually for a critical reason, a situation that demands immediate attention or resolution, whether it's a car crash with injuries, a vehicle hitting a gas line, a vehicle hitting a home, a vehicle hitting a pedestrian, or a scenario that involves someone shot in a vehicle. These are all kinds of calls that might seem extraordinary over a course of a career. Yet, this was just one call to service. One run number, one scene, one team of heroes responding with one thing on their mind: to help. During this budget process, you will be giving many different presentations, each one outlining what is important to each division. One thing we're asking for is help. Help us make Santa Fe safer. Help us get to your family sooner. Help us be everywhere for everyone. The most effective approach to making Santa Fe safer is by adding firefighters, creating new positions for the city to call on. As our city continues to grow and tourism climbs, it takes longer for fire department personnel to reach people in need. In order for us to get this done, we need more boots on the ground, more men and women standing shoulder to shoulder as they navigate from one scene to the next. Second, to finish our class and comp conversations, this was a big increase for the Santa Fe Fire Department. We've never seen this before. Unfortunately, it did show that the Santa Fe Fire Department was falling behind other entities. And with safety being the most important aspect of this city, we cannot fall behind again. We are very appreciative of what that increase has done for us. However, we understand that this pointed out other cities' priorities, and now it's time for Santa Fe to express theirs. We noted on the recent class and compensation study that other entities fall short of the promise the city of Santa Fe has fought so hard to maintain. That Tier 1 EMS service, it's an advanced life support ambulance running at high medical licensure throughout the city. This is something not too common throughout the state. Other departments sold their pride off to for-profit private ambulance. I'm proud to say the Santa Fe Fire Department runs all EMS throughout the city, and it's becoming more and more frequent that we help our neighbors in the county. Other shortfalls compared Two other departments is our prevention side of things. Other departments tend to use prevention as an incentive and not a position that it should be. This office prepares and detours the city for mass casualty events, making sure everyone is up to the standard of the fire code. They protect not only citizens of Santa Fe, but the firefighters from hidden hazards scattered throughout the city. We pride ourselves in being the city different, and we need to show that pride when evaluating what we do differently. Over the year, the Santa Fe Firefighters Association aims to support more than just the residents of this city. Our goal over the last legislative session was to secure funding and foster growth of not only our local department, but also other statewide fire departments. Through advocacy efforts, including expert testimony and speaking in various committees, we successfully secured $25 million. This funding covers the salary of new firefighter positions, providing full funding of the first year, 50% for the second year, 25% for the third year. It's worth noting that the positions we are seeking are eligible for this funding. The Local 2059 also advocated this year for an increase in EMS funding. Despite encountering obstacles along the way, eventually we succeeded in getting it signed. This boost in funding will allow the city to enhance its medical equipment and training, ensure that we're maintaining this Tier 1 status. In conclusion, as firefighters, our primary goal is to create a safer community. Achieving this requires increasing the number of firefighters on the streets and ensuring the retention of our current firefighters. Safety must remain our city's utmost priority. It's not merely about making promises, it's about fulfilling our obligations to foster a safer Santa Fe. A responsibility not owed to us because we're the state capital, but because it's morally the right thing. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I think we have heard from all the unions and we included that part of our agenda. We are today going to dive into one of the agency budgets. And the first one up we have is the Community Engagement Department, which consists of the city clerk, the Constituent Services Office or team, communications, and the public defender. I want to make sure, Director Oster, we did get a revised budget late yesterday afternoon that was uploaded to PrimeGov, correct?
Madam Chair, let me confirm.
Yeah. Mr. Hopkins, can you confirm that the updated budget book that you sent out yesterday afternoon has been uploaded to PrimeGov so that we are working off the most recent version?
Madam Chair, I can indeed confirm that. As well, the version that I emailed last night is that same version.
Okay. And I just want to make sure all the counselors are aware. I think we talked about this before the hearing started, that we will be working from that version that you sent yesterday afternoon.
Yes, thank you. I would just note that pretty much all the page numbers will be the same until you get to IT. There were some things that we inadvertently left out of the budget for IT. So IT and everything after that in the book, the page numbers shifted a bit. But before then, it should be mostly the same. So just for navigation ease.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so let us dive in and thank you guys for being here. Look forward to visiting with you. And if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves and your team as needed or necessary. And I'm just going to turn the floor to you to handle this presentation in whatever manner you've planned for us. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Geraldine Cardenas, the interim city clerk and community engagement director. We're here to present our budget. Thank you for allowing us this time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Isabella Sharp, who has graciously volunteered to present the budget for our department.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Thank you for allowing us to kick off our budget hearings today, and a special thank you and a shout out to our finance and our HR department for all of their hard work. And a special thank you to Armenia Tapia for putting together our beautiful PowerPoint. My name is Isabella Sharp. I'm the Constituent Services Manager for the City of Santa Fe, and with me here I have these two beautiful ladies and our amazing team that sits behind us. Our community engagement team is continuously and quickly growing, and oftentimes we don't make time to get to know one another. All of our city employees and constituents will receive information and regularly will receive essential communications through our team, and we don't always know who these individuals are. I've asked our team to be with us here today so you can put a face to them and our operation. In our department, I will note we have 4 vacancies, 2 constituent services specialist positions, a communications manager, and a city clerk. With me here, I have Erica Quintana, who is our administrative manager for our community engagement department. She's not with us today, but Christina Montoya, who is our records management technician. David Thomas, who is busy at work, but I will note he is our public defender. He is not listed in our org chart in the budget booklet, but he is an essential piece to city government, and I want to make sure that I do recognize him. Part of our constituent services team we have with us is our special events guru, Miss Alexandria Marez, Donovan Cholson, and Mariah Kavanaugh, who is our new addition to constituent services. Our communications team consists of Erin Pulsifer, who is our interim communications manager, and she's also the web content guru for the city of Santa Fe. We also have Jeff Norris, who's our public and relations officer, Chris Peralta, who does all of our graphic designs. And a big shout out to Chris as a huge accomplishment. He designed the Marty Sanchez Link de Santa Fe logo, and that's a big accomplishment for our department. And also with us, we have Lawrence Moss, who is our multimedia coordinator. So all of the fun and exciting pictures that you see in all the events that we have, Mr. Moss is out doing all the media work. I'd like to highlight that our communications team will be celebrating that they're a full operating team, excuse me. Now in May, they'll be celebrating 2 years. So our communications team really was built from the ground up. And so they are fairly new. They have some killer statistics that I'll highlight here shortly for their operation. We also have some team members from our city clerk office. We have Xavier Vigil, who is one of our administrative managers, Stuart Stephenson, our mail and duplication supervisor, Paul Herrera, and Rita Iariano, who is our duplication technicians. And last but surely not least, on occasion on the power side, you will see our City Hall pups, Ophelia Marie and Oliver Max. We continue to grow, and we literally touch all departments in the city. If you look at the org chart, all departments run vertically. Community engagement really does run horizontally. We support the city of Santa Fe internally and externally in some way, shape, or form. Our mission in the Community Engagement Department is to serve as the public-facing front doors to city government, connecting city government to our constituents by serving as a central hub and getting help, information, and data. In this department, constituents will get their questions answered, find updates on city programs and projects, find out about government business, examine records from the past, and offer input towards the city's future. We connect our residents to our government and our government to our community by continuously working to make the city inclusive, transparent, accountable, and responsible for our residents. Our goal is to be instrumental in making the city of Santa Fe the most user-friendly city in the nation, and to streamline our efforts with all of our departments and create and implement a one-stop shop and make our processes more efficient for everyone. If I can take a moment to dive a little deeper into our department and our divisions with our stats where we are, I'll try to be quick so we can move into our PowerPoint. Our city clerk's office has processed 495 contracts for execution, 150 approved by the governing body. We've also received 75 council committee agendas, conducted 5 special governing body meetings, and we posted 2 governing body study sessions at the beginning of the year. That was the study session and the council orientation. In 2022, we hosted 44 special events. That's almost 1 a week. We plan to add more special events, and this year we would like to host the holiday Christmas party for city employees. And we will be partnering with the Santa Fe Fire Department to do a big Christmas toy drive. As many of you know, Ms. Mares does Popcorn Fridays for all city employees. We also host the Halloween and Christmas holiday contests for all city employees as well. We will continue to rally with staff, and we are really excited to announce that this summer we will be introducing Truck and Lunch for city employees, where we'll be hiring some food trucks to come to City Hall and we'll serve city staff. To go through some of our CRM data, which serves the whole city of Santa Fe, on average, we're intaking 1,040 requests every 45 days. That's roughly around 23 work orders a day. We do have a public dashboard where you can review in real time the status of your work order, the problem type, and the top 5 work orders that are requested. Our number one CRM request right now is shopping carts. The Office of Constituent Services currently has a 4-year contract with Nebula Advisor, LLC, and the amount of $50,000 to retrieve shopping carts. Since July 1st to today's date, we have retrieved 3,588 shopping carts from the streets of Santa Fe and returned them back to their retailers. Constituent Services also takes the phone line for mayor and the city manager, Animal Services, the graffiti hotline, the streets division, the info line, and of course, the standard Constituent Services phone line. From July 1st to today's date, we have answered 18,739 phone calls. We in the last year have stored 100 boxes at our record center, and Christina has assisted 40 employees on how to properly store and archive. Our communications team oversees our email distributions, our press releases, our social media platforms, the city website, and our senior newsletter, This fiscal year, we have sent out 812,016 emails to 5,571 subscribers with a 54% open rate. To highlight that and to put that into a different perspective, that's 15% above the industry rate. We have a 1.1 million site visit on our website and a 2.2 million page visit. That's a big increase from last year as we continue to evolve with our communications team. We have 16,000 followers on Facebook, and our data shows that 75,000 people have visited our profile. That's a 51% increase. In July, we had 428 followers on Instagram, and as of today, we have 868 followers. Big number for you guys right now, but the Senior News Magazine grew by the number of subscribers by 800% in just 6 months. Our communications team really is doing great things. Our mail and duplication office has printed 22,300 business cards for city staff. They've produced 165,000 color laser copies and 535,000 black and white copies. And they've mailed over 37,000 pieces of regular mail, and they've sent 13,100 pieces of bulk mailing. We're continuously trying to streamline our operation in the mailroom and trying to conduct business in-house. As we move through our PowerPoints, we can start off with one of our accomplishments for our city clerk, acknowledging her and her team. A big shout out to Xavier Vigil, who took the lead on executing a contract with Civic Plus to implement a new agenda management system and a community application platform. Geraldine and Xavier truly are the dynamic duo of the city clerk's operation. Excuse me. I don't know if you know this, but G has been in the clerk's office for 17 years, and she's amazing. We really are like a family. For constituent services, we've hired 2 full-time positions, Donovan and Mariah. They are a wonderful addition to my team, and they truly have hit the ground running. As many of you know, some of our emails and phone calls that we receive, they're not always nice, and these 2 individuals are able to work with our constituents, and they make our operation better and flow. I'm happy to say that we have demolished 3 nuisance properties for the city of Santa Fe: 1844 Man Street, 1004 Calle Feliz. And as of this morning, I got our contractors set up, and they're currently in the process of demolishing 2069 Calle Contento. Constituent Services has also implemented a new no trespassing authorization form for property owners to sign off on and give city officials permission to remove unsheltered individuals from private property. Since going live with this form in January, we've received a total of 11 forms and have made numerous arrests. If any property owner is looking for help and needs help with cleaning up their private property, we have a great contractor. His name is Diego Perez. He's a firefighter out of the city of Espanola, and he is running his own business called PRZ Contractors, and he has successfully helped us clean up 3 private properties for us since going live with these forms. I would like to take a moment to also give a big shout out to Alexandria Mares and a big round of applause. Oftentimes, for a lot of our major events, when we make our speeches, we almost always leave her out and we don't thank her for all of her hard work. And it takes a lot to put these special events together, and she truly is a gem. Our annual Easter egg and Touch a Truck event, the holiday plaza lighting, State of the City, and the grand opening teen center are some of her major accomplishments. So huge shout out to Alex. Not only does she do special events, but she also does liquor licenses. For last year, she issued 132 dispenser licenses, 128 restaurant and club liquor licenses. 28 new liquor license requests have come through our doors. 23 inspections for liquor licenses she's conducted, and 197 special dispenser permits for alcohol have been processed by her. Into the comms slide here, we have brand standardization, which creates a consistent and unified brand aesthetics across the city of Santa Fe for all of our departments and our divisions. A consistent and unified brand guide recognizes trust, increases, and is efficient with communications with all of our constituents and fosters as confidence in city government. Brand standards are the foundation of a city government that looks, acts, and is perceived as an organization with one purpose, and that is excellent public service to Santa Feans. For our communications team, they have worked really hard to build out a brand consistency and a brand trust with the community. If you haven't seen our communications brand guidelines, I would encourage you to take a look at it. We have our brand standardizations, our logos, our color guide, and our typographics in that booklet. For community engagement, on the next slide, you'll see some of our major goals that we're eager to implement. We're gonna try and implement a new agenda management system. We are definitely full force and eager to increase translation services. We would like to execute a rapid response team to help expedite some of the work orders that we receive through the CRM system, and definitely develop a matrix for city government. We would like to create a new digital communication specialist position, and we're really eager to complete the SFC 16 Channel 28 contract. We also have plans and intentions to upgrade this council chambers office as well. If I can say anything about our team, I think it's that we'll continue to strive and to build trust and grow our relationships with our constituents. We are small, but we are mighty. We thank you and everyone and their continuous commitment and strong work ethic. We know that we will build a stronger and will be even better than before. We look forward to working with all of you, and with that, we stand for questions.
Thank you for that wonderful overview and for all the hard work. I agree, you guys are small but mighty, and lots of you have stepped into important roles in the last year or more. So really appreciate the work of this department. It's considerable, and like you say, I did like your reference to it running horizontally across city government, really critical to the functioning of city government. With that, I'll go to questions from the committee. Councilor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for being here and really for all of your work. Obviously, as you all know, a lot of the things that you do intersect very closely with some of the key components of our job. And we are, well, I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure everyone agrees, but we're very grateful for all of the work and all of the support and really helping us figure out some of these complex issues with everything from scheduling our meetings to making sure things are posted to really working with our constituents and some really challenging issues and looking for innovative solutions. So I really wanted to thank you all for everything that you do. We truly appreciate it. Most of my questions, I am curious about some of the goals listed and hearing a little bit more about them.
One of them, the modernization of the mail and duplication office, that's one area that I don't think I think about as much. That is obviously extremely important. So I would love to hear a bit more about what that work is looking like, what it is that's going to be needed to move that forward, how that's going to impact the city.
Madam Chair, Councillor Cassett, we just want to be able to keep copying and any work that could be done in-house from going outsourced. We want to modernize the way the mail is being processed through that division, and just overall want to keep business in-house and to keep our employees busy.
I'm sure they are. And does that require, or is there new equipment, new software, new training? What is it looking like, and what did those investments look like this year?
Yes, and if I could turn it over to Erica, can you speak on the new equipment?
Good afternoon, Chair and Cassett. Yes, so we are looking into getting a new machine. We have 3 vendors that we're currently looking at. I don't have a lot of information on it. Stuart is the one that oversees all that. He's the main mail-in duplication guru. So he, deals with those machines on a daily basis regarding postage and things that are required by the USPS that we do have to have. And so they are implementing something coming up July 1st. So we do need to implement this new machine prior to that date, so that way we are fully functional to continue with our mail outs. So we do have 3 different vendors that we are looking at, and we are looking at that one machine. But other than that, like she said, modernization, just basically trying to keep everything in-house, continually saving the city, money and things like that, to keep it in-house rather than outsourcing. And just to overall have a good process and to send out across the board to the city, all the services that we do offer that some departments may not know that they could utilize our mail-in duplication for. So we are working on sending something across citywide. That way everybody is acknowledge of that, and looking forward to that coming up soon.
Wonderful.
Madam Chair and Councilor Cassidy, if I also may add, Stuart is in negotiation with UPS to adopt their agreement as an independent agency, so that we can provide significant savings for packaging, shipping services as well.
Wonderful. Do we have an estimate at how much we're looking that this may save the city overall?
Chair and Councillor Cassett, that can save us anywhere from 40 to 60% on package shipping costs. Any express items that we need to send or tracked items.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for looking into those ways that we can save anything that we can save, obviously, as Andy pointed out. Anywhere we can save dollars right now is very important.
And if I may speak to those savings, by keeping our copying in-house, we saved last year, fiscal ending 2023, we saved over $327,000 for the city.
Okay, that's not small change. So thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Well, that helps too. Thank you guys for all of your work. The other area that I know that we've talked about over the last couple of years that continues to come up is interpretation and translation services, and how we make that more available, both looking at the website or forms. We've had a large conversation about the variety of resources that we need to make sure are offered in both English and Spanish at the minimum. At this point, that's what the goal is. So I would love to hear an update on where we are there and how you foresee that progressing in FY25.
Madam Chair and Councilor Castro, members of the Finance Committee, Cassett, I'm so sorry, so sorry. We do have translation services. We have a contractor named Alex Streeper. She currently does all of our translation services for us from English to Spanish. I will highlight, we just completed with her all of the PDFs on the City of Santa Fe website. That was a big project for her. All of the City of Santa Fe event flyers get sent to her. She does those translation services for us. And a big shout out to her as well for the special meetings ballot measure list. She's also processed those for us. So we do have a contractor internally through the city clerk's department that does do our translation services for us. I know a big conversation has come up where we would like to have interpretation services for, maybe somebody that is deaf and needs sign language, or somebody that does speak Spanish and we need it to be translated into English. And so in the redesign of the counselor chambers, we have asked for a quiet box to be somewhere designed in here. So when we do have translation and interpretation services, they're able to properly do that without disturbing the other members that are within the counselor chambers as well. So that design is within our scope of work for when we do redesign the counselor chambers. And we do have them on call, so they are RGC access. So anytime we do need interpretation services, we can just give them a call, and they are able to come down here and they can give us services as it's an on-call basis.
Wonderful. And that actually is a good segue into hearing a little bit more about the update to the council chambers and what that is, what that's looking like and the money that's been being designated to that.
So we have the $400,000 that was in the constituent services budget that we're going to utilize to revamp the counselor chambers office. I think a few things that we can emphasize and highlight, and we all recognize, is that we need to be ADA compliant. And we absolutely need to make sure that you guys are safe. As I say, you guys, the members of the governing body and city staff that also sit at the dais, we need to have a better escape plan for all of you. So some of the plans we have as we're sitting in here, we're definitely going to try and make this one level in here. Definitely a facelift, a new paint job, new artwork, really bring it to a more modernized look. We have intentions of breaking off this wall where we'll add a door to City Manager Blair's office, and that will be your office where you guys go into executive session. And then you'll also have the bathroom that's in there. That will also be a fire escape for you. We'll also close off this back door here so no one could come in and out from this area. You guys will all have your own badge and keypad, so you guys have full access and you guys are secured behind closed doors there. We will also be revamping this whole dais here. We have intentions of bringing in technology to you guys. So instead of each of you having your computers or your iPads with you, we'll be able to have screens that are embedded into your dais there. So you guys are able to follow us. Definitely an upgrade in computers, some cameras. We do have intentions of upgrading the chairs that we have in here. A big conversation that continues to be brought up is that we'd like to see a designated space for city employees when they are here at governing bodies. So we have asked for a designated space somewhere in the chambers for press and for city staff. We also do have intentions on this side here on this wall to tear down this wall, and so we can expand the room and open it up. So from start to end, we're currently in the beginning process. We've identified all of the things that we need to upgrade and the things that we are essential to this redesign. So we're currently in the process of working with an architect to come in, and then we'll start that process. Beginning to end, we're looking about 12 months out. And of course, we'll keep all of you updated as we'll probably have to conduct governing body and some of our other committee meetings elsewhere, but we will definitely keep you updated with that process. But definitely a redesign, definitely a different new area here for city staff, a new podium, all the above. Big facelift.
Wonderful. Sounds very exciting. Thank you. Thank you so much for that work and also your attention to the variety of different needs that a variety of individuals have when they come into chambers, whether us or the public or, of course, staff and press. So thank you so much for thinking about all that, and also really looking forward to having a more accessible chambers, because I know that has been something that I've heard a lot about, as well as how uncomfortable those chairs are. especially when we do have those longer meetings. We still seem to have them despite our best efforts. So making sure that the public is more comfortable when they are sticking it out with us is wonderful. I don't have too much else. The one thing I saw was a pretty big decrease in contractuals and utilities, down 57.2%. Curious what contracts might be heading out, or if that was part of, Andy's discussion about contracts not being fully utilized.
I'm gonna leave that up to Director Oster or Andy to answer that question for us on behalf of our department.
Thank you for that question. We have our budget officer coming down to the podium here.
Bear with me while it opens up here just a second. Okay, in constituent services, we did have 60,000 added for contracted assistance with constituent concerns and revenue enhancement. So that kind of upped the budget for the mid-year budget. Just to take a look at constituent or community engagement for the current year. Again, if this will hurry up and open, there we go. Let's see. We did put in the case of city clerk's office, we did do a 20% reduction to their contracts budget based on their 3-year average of 51.81% used and a high usage over the past year of 3 years of 66.6%. So we did put in an additional cut there just to look at the overall. There was a reduction actually in their request for contractual services as well. The mid-year budget was, let's see, just in their overall amount, we reduced it about 18,400. There was about a $28,000 reduction in their original request as well. So that was a combination of a reduced original request and a reduction done by the budget office.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Definitely appreciate that explanation. And I have no further questions. Thank you all again so much for being here. Thank you for your work and giving us some more information on things to look forward to.
Counselor Lindell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here today. I'm looking in my budget book and I'm not seeing where the where is it in this? I missed it. The redoing the chamber. I mean, we just talked about it. I don't know where it is in the budget book. I didn't know that it was.
I think we need Mr. Hopkins back again.
I didn't know it was in this budget. I don't see a line item for it. I don't know how we knew about it. I don't see it in the FY25 goals.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, that is not part of this budget. They are doing that for one-time money, but it is not included in their 25 budget. Correct.
So can we answer the question for the committee? Yeah.
That's one-time money that was put into the FY24 budget that will be carried forward. But at this point, it is whatever remaining amount will be carried forward, but it is not part of their FY25 budget at this point.
So do we have a budget amount for it?
We do not until they carry it forward in the first quarter and less than the amount that was spent in the current year, if any. that we do not know how much to carry forward.
Madam Chair and Councillor Lindell, if I could chime in, that's common for our capital appropriations. They're one-time appropriations, and we do a carry forward request once the new fiscal year starts to bring the remaining balance forward into the next fiscal year. So what Budget Officer Hopkins just described is how that process works for all of our multi-year capital projects.
How would I have seen that as a capital project?
That's remodeling of facilities, including the council chamber, would be considered a capitalizable offense. It is not an expense. It is not an operating expense. It would be the same as, remodeling the teen center or remodeling the senior center. Remodeling of when it reaches that threshold is considered a capital expense and one-time in nature, not part of the normal operating expense of, say, broadcasting meetings or having translation services available.
So we wouldn't see that item until, we've contracted for an architect. I don't know what the current budget is to do this, but when would we as a council have seen and said, yes, this is a project that we want to move forward on?
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, it's my understanding that it's not happened yet. I believe that they will probably submit that as part of our capital budget coming up in several weeks, but I have not seen anything formally added to the budget as of yet.
Huh.
Counselor Lindell, can I jump in on this?
Sure.
Counselor Faulkner then. But if we're carrying it forward from FY '24, we would have approved this money prior?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I've got my wires crossed there a bit. It's my understanding, and it could be that I've forgotten about it, but I do not remember seeing this on the one-time list for things done so far in FY '24. So I believe that is something that is not yet in the budget. If we do add it before the end of the year, it would be carried forward. Otherwise, it would be added to the capital one-time list that we'll be bringing to you in several weeks. But it is my recollection that that has not yet been budgeted.
Madam Chair, if I can chime in a little bit.
Sure, that'd be great.
Under the constituent services budget, under other consultant line item, I believe that's where the money is housed. There's $400,000 in there. That was allocated for a CRM system. And we, IT and I have had numerous conversations to gear around the CRM system. We've met with a couple of different vendors, and through ArcGIS, our system works. It's working. If you look at the data, all of the flow, the intake that we're currently processing through our CRM system, the counselor dashboards, the public dashboard, the resolution responses, the email notifications, all the above for the CRM system. That's where that 400,000 sat for last fiscal year. It currently is still in our budget for this current fiscal year that we're in. Alexis and I have intentions of doing a bar. We're not going to be able to renovate the counselor chambers by June 30th. And so we will be processing a bar to move those funds over into our current budget for this FY '25.
Okay, and so just so we can follow through, so I see in the community engagement department, other operating costs, is that what you're referencing? In terms of where that, that's
Madam
the
Chair.
line item that has a big enough number to accommodate what you're saying.
Madam Chair, the amount that she was referencing, other consulting, is actually in the contractual services.
Contractual service, contractual and utilities by category?
Yes,
Okay, so
if it is another consultant.
so mid-year 2023, 2024, there was 936,000. Is that the line item?
Correct. And yes, Emily just refreshed my memory. I had forgotten there's so many pieces to this budget. I just can't keep it all straight. There was a discussion in the review meeting with the mayor about repurposing some of that CRM money into renovating the council chambers. I just slipped right out of my brain.
Okay, Counselor Faulkner, and then back to you. Is that okay? Go ahead. Well, I thought you had a clarifying thing. I was trying to help Counselor Lindell get the answer to her question. If you're going off on something else, you're gonna, this is on this. Is that okay, Counselor?
I think what I- is it for the public to understand clarification with budgets, is there's two budgets that we work with. We work with capital improvements and we work with the programmatic budget. And so those are, you won't see capital outlay money generally in the program budget. And so this budget is a program budget, correct?
Correct.
Except that there is some capital in here. I mean, there's some one-time money, so.
Yes, there tends to be, Madam Chair, Counselor Faulkner, there does tend to be a little bit bleed over, particularly when we're dealing with things like one-time money from savings, one-time money from additional GRT. There tends to be a little bit of bleed over. You know, sometimes these things get a little bit confused, and I know it's confusing for the counselors. Obviously, it's confusing for us sometimes because even, you know, these things even slip past my memory, so.
So is the money that's being used for the council chambers net currently programmatic funding? And you were going to turn it into capital somehow?
Well, we don't have a true capital. We have one-time spending. It's something we need to work on from this, but you're right, this is an operational budget. And
Yes. I
this,
believe the plan is that the money left over from this project, and Izzy can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the money left over from this project can be reprogrammed and moved over to the capital one-time budget for the purpose of the renovation of council chambers.
because, and it's being moved over from the CRM system, money that was dedicated to a new CRM system.
Madam Chair, that is correct.
I'm going to go back to Counselor Lindell. Counselor, thank you for indulging what I thought was trying to clarify where you were going.
I've never even heard of this project. Should I have heard of this project? I don't know. I don't even know about it. I have no clue of what a dollar amount is on it. But we've already hired architects.
Madam Chair and Councilor Lindell, that is not correct. It's a new idea that we have, and that when we had our meetings with mayor and budget, that's what we had proposed. We recognize that the council chambers does need to be revised. We do need to bring it into compliance. And so we have that $400,000. And so that was something that I took the initiative on my end to throw out there and say, I'll take on this project. We are in the process of looking at an architect, as I mentioned, all of the things that we've recognized that need to happen. And so we're in the process of looking at an architect that can come in and write those plans out for us. We don't have a dollar amount at this point. All I can tell you right now is that we do have $400,000 that is in our current budget that will borrow over into FY25 for this project. So I don't have a dollar amount. We don't have a hired architect to come in yet. We don't have set plans. We don't have any of that in place right now. We're just in the beginning stages of it.
And that bar would have to come to us. if we're to
Absolutely.
approve it. So
For
I
that
think-
amount,
I think this
yes.
is, we'll have that moment to say we support this idea or not.
And Madam Chair, I will just say it has been informally discussed for many years. The chambers are tired. They need an upgrade. These chairs are horrible. My back can attest to that better than anyone. So the chairs in particular, I will not be sad to see go, but it has been a long-standing subject of discussion, but nothing has been formally added to the budget as of yet.
Okay, thank you. Clearly, I don't really love surprises. Not since I was 12 years old, which was a long time ago. So those are the kinds of things that we need to be really careful about, how we talk about those in our budget hearings. That's going to come to us later on as a bar, and we just need to be careful how we talk about those things. That it's not a done deal. It hasn't happened. And I would ask that we proceed with caution on any surprises.
Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I had that highlighted here in my book as well, in regards to the other operating costs. And the reason is that I really wasn't fully understanding, again, what those costs are. If this is going to be maybe the one line item that we're looking at, then maybe it would be wise to put that in there as what our intent is possibly. I know that it's going to come to the governing body for approval. And so same thing as Councilor Lindell, keep us in the know of what things are proposed going forward. And I believe that it would be up to this governing body to approve any architects that would be here and money. I'd like to move on to just the one question that I did have, and we all know that we do not have a city clerk at the moment. And so there was a big reduction in this overall budget for that. What are we planning going forward with that? If this budget being reduced and, looking at the
Madam-
staff that we do have.
Madam Chair, Councilor Garcia, I would just first note that the city, there is currently, excuse me, there's currently not a full-time city clerk. However, that position is still budgeted. That position is not frozen, it is vacant, but we still have budget in there, so there is no reduction for the fact that the city clerk is currently vacant. In addition, I would just clarify the amount that we were talking about, the CRM system and possibly being moved over, the prospective move to the chambers upgrade. That is not another other operating costs. That is part of the contractual. Other operating costs, in the case of city clerk, a large portion of that is in the form of advertising and postage costs. There is, for every department, there is also an allocation, standard allocation for things like fleet services, IT services, and other services that are provided on an internal service basis. For example, this is something that Councilor Villarreal back in the day always liked to discuss. Certain functions like the city's HR and payroll functions, finance functions, the ITT function, and the fleet function. Those services would not need to exist if there were not operating city departments like police and fire, public works. Those costs are assessed to all departments based on a variety of factors, based on a cost of service model. So if you have more vehicles, say you're a parks versus a constituent services, you will pay more for your vehicles. If you have a lot of employees with ITT accounts, you will pay a lot more than, say, the mayor's office that just has a couple of accounts. If you have more employees and therefore a bigger payroll, you will pay a greater share of the payroll costs, and so on and so forth. Those costs are included in other operating.
Thank you for that explanation. Yield the floor, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I'm going to go back to Councilor Faulkner, but I just want to be clear about something. So, Mr. Hopkins, you said that this money for the council chambers, your initial statement was that it would be a carry forward from FY24. That's not correct, right? It is now budgeted in the FY25 contractuals and utilities line item, and it is money that has not been spent on a new CRM system. Am I understanding that correctly?
Madam Chair, that's partially correct. I'm not sure if the plan is to repurpose the money that's in the FY25 budget for that, or the money that was in the current year's 24 budget and carry that forward and change the purpose of that. That would be something that constituent services would have to answer, because I'm not exactly sure that the level of that level of detail in the plan.
And any carry forward doesn't happen until the end of the fiscal year.
Madam Chair, that is correct. Usually with We discourage any carry forward from happening until the new fiscal year is approximately 1 month old in order to allow for any dust to settle, any invoices to be paid, so that we don't end up carrying forward amounts that were actually spent and carrying forward more money than we have to carry forward.
And so part of what's happening here is there's an acknowledgement by this agency that they're not going to use the money for the CRM system. And so they're going to have it available to carry forward in the new year. And that's why it's not yet in the FY25 budget, but it's also, it's just budgeted money in terms of the council approving it for a new purpose. That would be the bar to address the concerns of Councilor Lindell, that she is concerned we've never approved this, even though the work is starting to be done to envision what this might look like and what might be necessary to actually do it.
Madam Chair, that's correct. I believe, as Izzy remarked, this is still in the whiteboarding phase. No actual dollars have been spent out or allocated toward it so far. I would also note that because this is kind of the non-standard carry forward, you may recall several years ago, we changed the policy to allow the finance director to approve carry forwards for grants and capital projects. This would not fall into that policy. Therefore, if the carry forward exceeds $60,000, which it almost certainly would, and given that it's a change of purpose, it's for a capital project, but it was not originally for a capital project. So we would require community service or community engagement to bring that bar forward to council. In any case, even if it was under 60,000, council would still see it on the following quarter's resolution, but I'm almost certain it would have to go to council before then anyway, being a bar almost certainly in excess of $60,000.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted some clarity because we had different statements being made, and maybe just try to encapsulate what is happening here to catch up with the vision that has been outlined. So.
And I apologize. Some of that's my confusion.
No, that's all right. I think we've almost straightened it out, Councilor Faulkner. Go ahead.
One of the things that'd be helpful for me as a counselor is when you have things like broad titles like other operating costs, and they're millions of dollars. I know you don't want to be pinned down to how much you're going to spend exactly because you may not know on the items that would fall under that, but just a list of what those might be would be helpful. And I would say that to all the departments presenting, is having just a tiny bit more detail, because other operating costs could literally be anything. And so that's, for me, that's problematic.
And I guess sometimes those things can be categorized or grouped, the kinds of things that are in those line items. Can you speak to that at this point, or is it really varied department to department?
Madam Chair, Councilor Faulkner, that you're correct, there is a wide variety of those costs. They're very disparate. This budget book is an attempt to give you something that is digestible. If we broke the budget out by actual object codes or line items, including everything that is included in there, the budget book would be approximately 10 times its current size, and would be so much detail as to be incomprehensible. I can give you a rundown of the major costs that are included in other operating costs. There's the aforementioned services of other city departments. That's usually a very large item. Advertising is a very large item. You will see, particularly in places like tourism, HR department, you will see very large advertising costs. Those are included in other operating costs. In the case of city clerk's office, one of the large items in there is postage for the entire city operation. Those would be the big ones. There are, however, dozens and dozens of little ones that just don't fit into any other category, such as bank charges and fees, credit card fees, miscellaneous expenses. They're just all kinds of little things that fit in there. And again, if we broke out in that entire level of detail, there would be so much detail that you would, budget would hardly be readable.
I think that it isn't an either or. I think you could provide a little more detail, like what you just did. That would be helpful. I'm not asking for like, we spent, $50 on some kind of postage, but just to know what other operating costs are, like even just the big buckets. That would be super helpful because it's very vague. And that's what's problematic for me is that could be anything. When I'm looking at it and I didn't help build the budget, I have no idea what that is.
I think the other thing that's helpful sometimes, Counselor, is like, for instance, on this budget, other operating costs, there's a change from the 24 to the 25 budget of 30% decrease. And sometimes you see that number going the other way. And I think that's one way that we look at this too, is that we ask to understand why a particular line item may have gone down substantially or up substantially. And that's sometimes a good way, in addition to maybe broad brush what's in that line item, but also like what accounts for the change between the fiscal years. So that's, at least that's something that I often dive into. And, contractuals was always an area where you could see budget fluctuations and always an interesting place to sort of ask questions around. I think this year we know that money, where the decreases in that line item have gone to fund the class and comps. So broadly, but there may be other things that we want, it's a line item to pay attention to for sure.
So you guys do a great job. It's just that we don't get to help build the budget. And so you may intuitively know, or exactly because you're helping build the budget, what these are. And I think it would help all of us if as the chairwoman said, that those questions could be answered in some small way so that we at least have some guidance as to what these items are about.
Madam Chair, Councilor Faulkner, those categories that I mentioned before, and those will comprise probably more than 95% of the other operating cost budget across the city. Yes, there'll be a little bit for credit card fees here and there. There'll be a little bit for printing and publishing here and there, but the vast majority of it will be advertising, postage in this case, and services of other departments. That's really going to encompass the lion's share of those.
And I mean, just to put a little humor into it, it would be as if my husband said, "What did you spend that money on?" And I said, "Other stuff." Like I wouldn't accept that answer in my household, right? I did, and it's more just so the public also, when they look at this, I would be suspicious as a community member. What is other operating costs? What are they talking about? And again, you don't have to go into super detail, but just to have a little more detail would be awesome. And I think it might save time also in the dais, because I wouldn't be asking this question every single department that comes forward that will have an item like that. I'm going to be asking for a breakdown.
Andy, would it maybe help if we sent Counselor Faulkner the chart of accounts? Because I think everyone's budget is very different, and I think the chart of accounts breaks that down pretty well.
Yeah, and it's not directed at your department specifically. This is showing up in other places. And so it just would be helpful.
Madam Chair, we could certainly do that if you would like. There is a whole lot of detail in there. I don't know how much good you're.
Let's try this. Let's try, I think what we'll do, if it's okay with you, Counselor Faulkner, is we can ask, each agency to kind of categorize what other operating costs reflects broadly. And let's see if that gives us enough information. If we need more, we can certainly ask for it and get it. I also don't want to bog down staff with things that maybe aren't going to lead us anywhere. So I also want to defer to the mayor. He wanted to jump in on this conversation as well.
Yeah, I had a couple of quick comments. Number one, we should have said this at the beginning, and I apologize. In every budget, set of budget hearings in the past, our staff is taking copious notes of questions. And if we can't answer them here and now, give us a day or whatever the time, how difficult they are, how much time it takes. All questions are fair, and not always the answer is forthcoming in real time. So we're all sitting here with our notebooks open and if you have something that is a question about unpacking an item, by all means, ask. And if it can't be answered in real time, it will be the next day or as soon as possible. Secondly, I wanted to go back to the example of fixing up the council chambers. Part of what happens in these budget hearings that's, I think, a good thing is our staff highlights proposals that they're excited about. That doesn't mean they're done deals. That means that this is things they are popping to the surface as opportunities to do something they think is going to be a benefit to the community, to us when we're holding our meetings, or as you'll hear in the course of all the other departments, services delivered out in the field. And some of them are clearly delineated as funding sources with funding sources attached to them. Others are more an aspiration that we'd like to do, that our team would like to do this. And they brought it up in the course of the conversations that we had, building ideas that sometimes get in the budget and sometimes don't. So by all means, if they bring in all the future hearings, as ideas are brought to the surface of exciting opportunities to do something new or expand on something that's already being done, and you haven't heard of it, or it's not something you've already been briefed on because it is in the budget as a proposal, please do ask about it and unpack what the purpose is and what the need is. And I think you'll be very impressed by the creativity, innovation, and problem-solving skills that are on display across all the departments. They're certainly not meant to present anything as a done deal or a surprise. It's something that in each case the department folks are bringing to you in the course of the budget to say, we would really recommend that this be done because it'll be a real improvement for the community.
Okay, other questions? Councilor Castro.
So I have just a couple. Thank you again, everyone, for your presentation. There was sort of a discussion about carts and the contract for that. Can you explain a little bit how we deal with shopping carts since it's such a big concern for constituents?
Absolutely, Madam Chair and Councilor Castro. We did a bid a couple of years ago where we put out a bid for contractors to come to us and say, you know, we need you to retrieve shopping carts. We did do a pilot program, I think, just to give you some background. We did do a pilot program for about a year. We had a contractor, and we have certainly grown and learned a lot of things. So when we did do this bid and when we drafted the contract, there are certain things that we implemented into that contract. I can highlight a few of them for you. So all of our work orders that are processed through our CRM system are what our contractor retrieves. So that's the only type of work orders that our contractor is allowed to get. Our contractor is not allowed to go onto the streets and find the work orders. We really rely on our constituents to process and to notify the city that they saw an abandoned shopping cart somewhere. Every Monday, invoices are due to Erica, and then I and my team double check all of the amount of shopping carts to make sure his invoices and the amount that he's submitting to us is correct. Every Tuesday, Donovan Trolson in Constituent Services will go through all of the CRMs, and he'll process those work orders and send them to our contractor. Our contractor goes out every Wednesday to retrieve work orders, and then he goes out every Saturday to retrieve work orders. So we send him the CRM list on Tuesdays and on Fridays. With that, when he does go out to verify and pick up those work orders from the streets of Santa Fe, we do have our a form that we implemented where our contractor has to physically go into the store and say, here are 10 Target shopping carts that I am returning to you. So instead of going to the parking lot and just putting them back in the corral, we physically have our contractor go inside. We ask a store manager to come in, and our store manager has to sign off, date, and acknowledge that our contractor returned X amount of shopping carts to them.
Thank you so very much. And going back to sort of the chamber, I know, I had heard in passing that there was some talk of
creating a services sort of hub for the city that would include chambers. I think that there are a lot of different ideas on how we can better serve our constituents. And I know that we've talked about maybe doing an event where folks can come and learn more about utilities and how to pay things. We've had a lot of folks be concerned that they're not able to do everything online. And so I want to remind folks that they can call into constituent services or email. There are different ways that we can put in these complaints and or work orders. So thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Counselor. And you can also contact your counselors. Another tried and true way. I do have one question. In the budget book, see if I got away from it. I did, sorry, turned too many pages. I'm very interested on page 9 or page 39. It says continue the rewrite of the election code and the public campaign finance code. Can you all speak to that? Because I know that was something that City Clerk Mahelsek started before she left. We did sort of one pass, and then the plan was she was going to come by with the next one in this year when we don't have an election to kind of do a more hefty lift. And I'm happy to see this because I think there are some rewrites that need to be done. And I was concerned that maybe we'd lost the opportunity. So I'm happy to see this included in kind of what your goals are for FY25. And maybe you could speak to it just a little bit, because I think it is a very important item and something we really do need to get done.
Madam Chair, thank you for the question. Absolutely want to continue that rewrite. I want to work with Senior Assistant City Attorney Marcos Martinez to continue that. I know that Clerk Mahelsek and Marcos have worked really hard on getting that, and I just want to, slide in and continue that work because it's very important to get that done. Our election code was a bit outdated, and the public campaign finance code as well. So happy to have any input from you on that, but I do want to continue that because I do feel that it's a very important part.
Great. Well, I'm glad to hear it's on your radar. It's certainly been on mine, and I'd be happy to work with you on getting that brought forward because, again, I was working with Clerk Mahelsek before she left on the first phase of it. This is our window to get that done before the next election. I think there were a number of things identified as really needing to be done. And so, again, happy to see that as part of what you all are wanting to focus on. Trying to see if there was anything else. Oops, too far the other way. I think that was the big thing, and I appreciate the conversation we've had based on the questions from the committee, and I appreciate your enthusiasm and your initiative and excitement and all the work again that the whole team does, not just the three of you, but all of you in the back row in the uncomfortable chairs. Yeah. So.
Madam Clerk, if I may, I just want to say big shout out to our whole entire team. We do work well together. Want to keep this momentum going. And thank you, Izzy, for stepping up and presenting for us. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and actually that does remind me that system that you all are doing, is that to replace PrimeGov?
Yes, it is, Madam Chair. Yes, it is.
Civic Plus?
Civic Clerk is what the application is called.
Okay.
But it is from Civic Plus. It's a Civic Plus.
Okay. And what's the timing on that?
We are currently in training right now. Xavier, Erica, and I are currently working on the boards, and Jeff Norris are working on the boards portion of it now. And then once that gets implemented, we'll start on the agenda management system. But we're in the beginning phase of being trained on how to operate that system.
Okay. Great.
You all will be the first to test it out.
All right. That's what I thought it was. So I'm glad you're your statements there reminded me of my other question. Counselor Faulkner.
So as you're building this out and you're building the boards, are you seeking assistance on getting information on how best to serve the disabled community? Because as you build the boards, that the time to get information.
Madam Chair and Counselor Faulkner, yes, and you are on my radar to be included in that process.
Yeah, and I just while you're building the boards too, because a lot of things that happen around accessibility, especially with software and apps, is the way the boards are designed can be problematic. And so if you don't plug in information while you're designing the boards, you're gonna have to go back and probably repeat or rework some things that you might be able to save time on if you just could get some help as you're building it out.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have a meeting on May 1st. Would you like to be included in that?
Yes, and if you need any resources from me on some of the contacts I have around accessibility, I'm more than happy to
Absolutely.
provide them. Because you guys really do work hard, and I don't want to see you guys, work hard on the boards and getting this up, because I know how much it means to you guys to provide these services to not only the council, but to the citizens of the city as well. And so I just want to make sure I can help you with resources to make sure you don't have to like double your efforts because we missed some little thing that could have been avoided.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're good. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thanks to the budget team and staff for the overview. Thank you to the unions for all being here and making the statements and presentations they did and providing input early on in this process. Thank you to the Community Engagement Department for kicking us off and being the first agency under the hot seat, and you handled yourselves well. And again, we really appreciate all the work you do and will do, and look forward to that. And again, thank you to the committee. We are finishing a little bit early, except, we're going to give the mic to the mayor. Maybe we won't.
I will do my best to just build on what you said, which was, you used the word hot seat. And that triggered a thought in me, which is, I don't know if the governing body knows this, but for the men and women who appear in front of you, the individuals who put in all this work, it can be a little bit daunting. And they hold themselves to a very high standard. They want to give you good answers and be responsive. And sometimes they are nervous. Sometimes they're, cover your ears, y'all. Sometimes they're flat out afraid that they're going to let you down or something's going to go sideways. So I really do appreciate the conversation that was a good, constructive one today. And I hope that tone of mutual respect and engagement continues for the entire budget process. There are no intentional tricks in this budget or in the way our team presents the budget. They are incredibly devoted to doing their work and doing their job. So if you spot something that's a concern or a question, absolutely, you want to know more. That's the oversight you're expected to have. But I think we often, as elected officials, underestimate the extent to which it can be a little daunting to sit in those hot seats. And I give our team a huge round of applause for how they conduct themselves and handle what can be a little bit of a iffy circumstance. So thank you for the session today. It's off to a good start.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, the committee handled itself properly and well. And, again, I think this is an opportunity, as I said at the beginning, to really visit with you all about the work you've done in the current budget year and the work that you're looking forward to doing in the next one as we move forward. So, I would say sometimes the questions may get sharp, but I encourage everybody not to take them personally. I think we are always trying to understand and don't have very many opportunities to really dive in like this. And it's something I'd like to see this finance committee do more of in the course of the year instead of having only this one shot. And that's something that I look forward to instigating in the next fiscal year as we get our audits finished and we have audited numbers that we can really work from throughout the year. So again, want to thank the Finance Committee. I did also just realize, Director Oster, so typically, I guess we have approved the budgets as they come in front of us, and I just realized that we didn't do that with this department. Is that the way you want us to proceed? Rather that, that's the way we've always done it. Seems like maybe we should continue.
Madam Chair, that would be my recommendation, is that the committee vote on each budget as it's before you.
Okay, and so we're basically voting to approve this department's budget as a recommendation to the governing body where it gets final approval. So if we could get a motion on this budget.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this budget. I guess the other question then is, do you do a roll call?
Madam Chair, it would
It's
be the
probably, we
safest.
should. I think it's
Yeah.
something we don't want to do a voice vote.
Absolutely. Yep. So Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner, Counselor Lindell, Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so we will end this on that note. Congratulations on having your budget approved. I made up a new word. Approved for recommendation to the governing body. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll start tomorrow at, what time are we starting?
Madam Chair, 12 o'clock tomorrow.
12 o'clock. All right, 12 o'clock tomorrow. We'll see the next group. Thank
you.
We're adjourned.